a very interesting thing. I was not sure what to make of this, Matt.
Yeah, this is certainly something.
A huge wave of TBC Classic realm consolidation has happened. And that means, straight up, servers are being shut down. So, 22 NA servers dead, 21 EU servers dead. They're going to be going on the 9th or 10th of August. The TLDR basically is that there are free character transfers available to multiple active destination realms. People are strongly encouraged to do so before the 9th or 10th of August, because if they do not, the automatic transfer will happen to, I guess, some realm, and your character might be unavailable for up to 2 weeks. So I guess that's some big weird batch process that just works a bit differently. Also, some restrictions are opened up. You can move a normal character to a PvP server, and you can actually have Alliance and Horde on the same PvP server. So those things are pretty damn different.
Yeah.
So I'll just go through some community reactions, and then maybe we can try to make heads or tails of this, because,
of course,
I initially thought, like, oh, do they just want to have a smaller number of just big, high-capacity, healthy servers, or is there something else going on? Yeah, so I guess Akalon just talking about the issue of, you know what, Mega Realms, use sharding, whatever, which I think for many people would work really well. Also, though, for a lot of people, they kind of really don't want those things in the classic environment. People also asking for similar in retail. I think retail is an environment where a consolidation would make more sense. They used to do the connected realm things more, but just cross-realm zones and all of that stuff, I think they sort of stopped doing the realm connections whenever that all became a bit more prevalent. So there is the full blue post here. I don't really see the point in going through all the details. You basically know all the important things now. So why do we think this is going on? Oh, there's Shazra.
Yeah, the server run's gone. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's, even if you look at Ironforge.pro and you see for like realm stats, it's just not there. Basically, there's just not enough people playing the game across these different servers. They kind of all amalgamate to the likes of Firemaw in the EU, and that is just a very massive queue. So it's just, there's just tons and tons of like almost literally dead servers where there's no activity whatsoever. And I think it's like that doesn't have as much of an impact on retail, because everything is so connected anyway. It does have some impact, but nothing quite substantial. But then it gets to this case, and it's just, like they say, maintain healthy populations for realms, but they do need to just retire them because there's not enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm on Ironforge Pro now, which I must confess I've never used before. So if there are any quirks in the data, let me know. But looking at TBC Classic here, okay, so this is the number of active characters.
Yeah.
What constitutes an active character?
Well, it's
raids. All right, so this is active raiding characters.
Yeah, so this is anyone who was on the Warcraft logs or on the PvP leaderboards for the 1st of June, 8th of June.
Basically 300,000 between the two.
Yep.
In this 1 week span. Yeah. And it's incredible when you look at the server balances. There's Faralina.
Yeah. I mean, there's Firemaw, which has been basically the only massive server in EU for the longest time, and it's kind of pushing back and forward as people transferring over. It's interesting, for sure.
Yeah, Mankirk, Whitemane. Yep. Holy shit. Yeah, interesting. So, I'm just looking at some of the numbers in these servers.
Yeah,
because if we go to these, these are roughly... These like roughly chronological, sort of are.
Oh, they're sorted by number.
So,
of active players.
I mean, we go to halfway down this list, and it's like 1,500 characters each side, 3,000 characters.
Yeah, it's just
go down a little bit more, 30. I mean, just a tiny bit more. 46, 150. So what on Earth Fury? There's like 2 raiding guilds, or just a bunch of people trying to puck with each other, or maybe that's just one raiding guild. It's probably just one guild. There's one guild alliance Earth Fury. That's what the server's up for. I mean, there's probably people leveling and stuff. So you kind of look at the quantity of servers, and there's just a bunch, just 0.
Yeah, just literally no one playing on them. Well, I mean, not no one playing on them, but no one at max level logging any raids or being on the PvP leaderboard.
I suppose there are times where I've seen, just people talking about dead servers, but I've never actually looked at the data because I haven't been playing. But oh my god.
Yeah.
Is this just the natural player dynamics of, because the server matters so much more, people are just going to go en masse to mega servers rather than to just sort of stay in a half-dead server.
Yeah.
So in which case, like, is it not more healthy for the overall game's like economy, population, etc., if you have a smaller quantity of better populated servers?
It is definitely the better like experience overall. And I think it's maybe just the case of there's a lot less players than at launch of Classic, so they just kind of have to... Servers will die, naturally.
I wish we could get this number, right? Weekly rating characters. What would that be like for live? Is it possible to get that?
Not with any real sense of accuracy of individual players. I mean, maybe...
It's just if we could get the exact same
could,
methodology here as Ironforge Pro, just to do a comparison, because I remember seeing it was some Sunwell parse counts compared to Shadowlands, and it was insane.
Yeah.
There's so many more. It was like 400,000 parses or something in a week. There's like so many more people.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing that people are kind of noticing at the minute, and they're not noticing it through any really super hyper legitimate data. There's a lot of people just kind of roughly shitposting with using the like Wowhead tracker, like their add-on trackers, achievement percentage of profiles completed stuff, to show that, or well, you know, to try to make a point that the rating population in Shadowlands is really, really low, especially now comparative like to the amount of people playing. And I think that's a case of, I think it's just rating is, especially in a way that's going to be parsed, it's way less accessible in Shadowlands than it is in Classic, I think. Just overall, because there's so many different factors. And in terms of like I guess is the problem, if you try to make it, it's not even like a Shadowlands rating is hard, but it's kind of, there's steps to get there. There's some mentally complex kind of stuff going on. But it is a little bit of, it's hard to know, honestly. That's the thing. It's really difficult to get actual data because Blizzard have went out of their way to stomp out anyone who's getting actual data by making changes to the API, by rate limiting it and stuff like that, because they don't want people to know these things, which is frustrating from our end because it would be fantastic to know it. I suppose,
could you just choose a date range and then for all difficulties just manually count the parses and add them together?
Well, that's the thing, because the actual number of parses gets a wee bit confusing.
Because there's a lot of things that inform that statistic.
Yeah.
Like if it's just a whole bunch of people failing Muru or something.
Yeah.
I only say that because I know Muru is supposed to be hard, but to be
Yeah.
honest, that in TBC Classic, like people know the fights completely and have hyper optimized their gear, right? So maybe they just totally face roll everything.
Yeah, that's the thing where it's like you do kind of, you could compare some statistics, but you'd be comparing very bad statistics.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have any like actual numbers. You'd only have a comparative of, hey, the number of parses is lower or bigger. So I think that's kind of the interesting part of figuring this stuff out.
Another interesting thing too is, did Season of Mastery work?
I think Season of Mastery was a colossal failure in terms of how many people actually are super interested. I think it is an extremely niche product, and that's why I think the project's probably dead in the water.
Yeah. It's weird because there would be that just general appetite for Classic, and it's just like people do an initial wave of it, but you know, you can't have WoW Classic as an active product. It has a time frame.
Yeah, which is obviously where you go, oh, just Classic Plus, just live service, just actually develop it like you do the game, but then you need to develop it. But Season of Mastery is their attempt to kind of,
It's like there's 4 servers that are played on. Like, it's literally 0 rating characters on most of the servers. I mean, 0 that are, uploading such that they'll be picked up by Warcraft logs, right? Mm-hmm. Like, look at Kingsfall. It's 110 Horde characters.
Nice.
Rating, right? It's just weird. There's also a Classic archive. Oh, it's, I guess, for the last bit of Classic.
Yep.
Very interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. It seems like it just makes a lot of sense for the player base.
Yeah.
Though.
Now this is where I would love to see comparisons to a lot of private servers. Obviously Ascension becomes the main immediately. I'd love to see a comparison of how many active people are there versus Season of Mastery. And is there a version of like Blizzard are trying to do this, but someone else is doing it better in that sense, in terms of the more classic experience? Obviously that's not full classic, but it does. sort of make me wonder, is there a world where Blizzard can make this product better for people? Or is it just we're the official version, so it might not be better, but it is what we have? Because, I mean, they definitely tried Season of Mastery, but they tried Season of Mastery in a way that's very much... I don't want to call it lazy, because it's clearly not.
Conservative.
It was conservative, but it also was... it was playing with what I think the classic people theoretically like. It's all of the number crunchers and the spreadsheeters and the people who want to figure out this were kind of the ones playing, I think. And I think Season of Mastery was kind of based around how those solutions kind of come about and toying with those values in a way, as opposed to super massively toying with the end experience. Because that's a thing where if you think of, I guess actually pretty good examples, probably the randomizers, right? So the randomizers for Super Mario 64, for Ocarina of Time, for is one from Majora's Mask. There's basically a couple of games of randomizer mods for emulators, and that is just move shit around like crazy. And it's full on like, there's obviously safeguards to make sure you can complete stuff, but it's full on like, you don't get a very early item until you're in like Ganon's Tower in Ocarina of Time, or, you know, you go check a chest in an obscure dungeon and it has the Master Sword in it. The stuff like that makes that's really, really quite exciting and really very different. Whereas like the Season of Mastery stuff was more just, you have to recalculate things a little bit, as opposed to here's this insanely mental, completely different thing. Where it's like, you know, what are you going to get? A Ravager drops from like a level 10 mob in Darkshore. No one knows. No one knows how that's possible. Someone finds it, discovery happens, but it's this whole thing of the game's a little bit too data mined, the game's a little bit too complete. They need to just kind of throw a massive amount of stuff into the, I guess roll millions of dice and go, this is a crazy version of the game, enjoy that.
I guess the problem here is World of Warcraft's not RuneScape. And old school RuneScape kind of works better in RuneScape because RuneScape is more of a sandbox game, right? It's like, you know, RuneScape is player housing. You want to make a chair? Okay. Drop down a tree. Get the construction skill. You want to fire an arrow? Cool. Someone's got to mine the iron, mine the coal, get the feathers from the chickens, get the wood, make the shaft, craft the arrow, go to Camelot, sell the arrow, or whatever, right? Like, it is just way more of a sandbox game. The way that you build your character is, like, so much more of a sandbox in RuneScape. So it's like if OSRS is the game that we try to model a Classic Plus off, it becomes quite hard. Because I always think, oh, Classic Plus, that's obviously what I want. I just want to keep on going in original Azeroth. How do you do that mechanically? Because WoW is just a, you know, gear score, gear goes up game. And I know that in RuneScape, they do have, like, humongously hard to get gear, right? Where, you know, you're in a full set of dragon, but you can go and, you know, that place is, like, way, way, way up the north in one of the subscriber areas, and it's just fucking crazy shit. I guess that exists as some crazy North Star of content to do. But for the most part, people are just, you know, they're doing their castle wars and farming some GP and stuff. It's just a sandbox game. So WoW isn't a sandbox game. How do we deal with this? You know, what are the little treadmills that exist? And the way that, like, the housing system is a treadmill. And when I say a treadmill, I mean, you know, it's harvesting resources from the game world and then, you know, sort of destroying them to build a thing. Like, what are those? You know, it's like in EVE Online, right? We harvest all of our ore. People are really good at manufacturing, build some ships. Those ships get completely destroyed. And there's a cycle to it all. Where is that in Classic? How do you make that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you could try something really radical with world PvP. You could try something radical with, like, a guild or player housing that's supposed to, like, fit more in the world, that could maybe fit Classic almost better than Alive. Like, I don't know. Not that housing's the fucking solution to everything in the world. It definitely isn't. Like, how do you make it how do you just shift that into a game that's people know what it is, right? Yeah. And then it's like, if the game is existing as a sandbox, I mean, then it's kind of tricky, because it's like, well, best gear doesn't come from crafting, so you can't get that side of the RuneScape economy going. How do you do it? I don't know. Maybe you do. If you do, please let Blizzard know. anything to get us a Classic Plus.
Yeah, it's the awkward thing where, I mean, obviously the immediate thing is, well, what's the whole loop of World of Warcraft is get the gear, and then you've got some consumables to keep up, then you go get more gear. So like once you have all the gear, there is a literal endpoint in the core of the design, so you can't just keep it going. So break all your gear. There you go.
There we go. Just like Breath of the Wild.
Yep, your gear just breaks. Go reform it. There you go. That's a solution.
You
The other
man.
the other solution is really rapid seasonal stuff, but I don't think in the same way people are happy to go and play, you know, a Diablo and go, oh, well, I'll go to the next level of Rift, or I'll go to the next Hell difficulty or Torment River. That's a god awful solution. Didn't say it was a good solution. Said it was a solution. It was obviously a terrible solution. There's obviously going to be a complete nightmare. No one would want to do that outside of the honestly the most masochistic players. But it's like the actual solution to that is that the one that Blizzard would do immediately is probably the Greater Rift. Let your Rift couple level. Right. But that's not new content. That's not different. That's just the same thing, but it's got different numbers.
Yeah, but I think the thing that like made WoW successful, like a pillar of the game, is player investment.
Yeah.
So a seasonal model like overtly throws player investment out the window. You're never going to look at your seasonal character like you actually give a shit about them. That's just the character that you're completing, you know, a new form of challenge on. But I think for player investment, it has to feel like your main that you've had for ages, that you're going to have for ages.
Yeah, so there's probably a way where you can do a seasonal reset on a character. But that would be a bit kind of weird. Like you have like a high baseline that you've earned, and then there's a seasonal reset, which would result in like, I guess, well, now we've just designed World of Warcraft every expansion, haven't we?
Yeah, there you go.
Because that's how expansions work. Whereas, oh hey, you've reached level whatever. Here, get a little bit. You know, especially the last couple expansions of hey, borrowed power in the bin. So that's a problem that people don't like. So
in that case, I basically wonder: do you start to add content to Classic that is inherently more sandbox? So let's just say, you know, a WoW Classic, the pirate's booty or whatever, and it's all focused around the goblins. We use the goblins as our way to get some sandboxy systems. So you kind of, you know, you create your more sandboxy systems that are to do with these pirates or Gadgetzan or whatever. Yeah. You know, via that you can provide reasons for players to go back to the older raids so that there is still like enough of an overall kind of like raiding system that it's viable for new players. And then you like slowly, you know, with both linear content that is more quest based, but then maybe some like really big, ultra fucking mega hard prestige quests that are hard to do, like the ones that make Classic kind of famous. Maybe you work some more of those into the game, heavily involved player and server economy and those things. And then it's just like, how can you create more sandboxy content that can sit on top of the current Classic experience? You know, do you maybe add a new raid that has horizontal upgrade gear rather than massive vertical upgrade gear, because you can only do, you know, vertical progression in Classic for so long before the numbers don't work? Has anyone calculated, I'm sure the private server people know, how far they can push, you know, item level inflation in Classic until stats don't work anymore, and, you know, you're sitting there, just everyone has RSI. I have no idea, but like maybe that's the only thing to do, to kind of like do a Classic, say this Classic is Classic, we're going to keep on adding yearly content to it in this sort of way, and we want this to be a permanent home. I feel like that's the only way to have a Classic that people will keep on playing. It's like everything else just has a clear sell-by date.
Yeah, I think that's the problem of the issue is that World of Warcraft, even though it didn't feel super like it, it's always been a bit, in terms of theme park MMO design, it's always been there. It's always been, there is an endpoint, there is a finish to this. Not even just an endpoint of, oh, you get bits, but it's like, a lot of what people liked about World of Warcraft initially was, and this is kind of talking about the bottle type of player that we talked about in a recent video, but the idea of there are players who are explorers who like to do content, who like to, you know, get novelty out of things. I think that's where a lot of initial Classic kind of had its fan base from. And that's the hardest bit of content to make. You can't just go and make new stuff all the time, because that requires a ton of, you know, creative staff to actually make it all the time, which makes it expensive, makes it time consuming, etc. So it's
like for Classic though,
yeah,
in the same way that, I mean, fucking Molten Core is built in a week.
Yeah,
you could probably just put some mad drugs into Romero, gave him the level editor for Doom, and just away he goes. Just creates a whole bunch of stuff. It's like in some of the times gone by, games like where they were so much like lower fidelity that just building a fuckload of content was cheaper, because like you literally don't need as many artists to do this job, right? So perhaps if they were to keep on making classic content but actually staying within the level of fidelity and style of classic, which I'm sure would be an interesting artistic challenge as well, but surely that would be a decently cost controlled way to keep a version of WoW like vibrant.
You would like I think that's the one thing that like the last resort for classic, I think. Just because it'll be cost controlled, but it would still be expensive. It would still be expensive enough. It would still require people trained. It would still require, and I think this may be the point of it more than anything else. It would require people who are trained in scripting content in World of Warcraft. And then you'd also have to kind of take, who do we have that can make content in World of Warcraft? The World of Warcraft team. They're a bit busy at the minute. They can't exactly go and train up, a bunch of classic people to go make classic plus stuff or figure out the whole thing. So basically, like, I think that's a great idea. I think it is just classic plus, make more content, go crazy with it. Kind of do what the private servers are doing, which is not go full, like, completely classless or insane like Ascension, but do something in the kind of way of, do you want to just make another Molten Core? Do you want to make a different version of Molten Core? Because a lot of what this gets into is, and this is something that Asmongold was talking about in his Diablo 4, what was it called? Diablo 4, don't get hype or don't get excited or something. And one of the things he talks about and brings up is how Diablo 3, basically, and obviously like production for that game and development for that game was kind of a little bit short-lived after, obviously it's been supported with seasons, but in terms of hardcore development, in terms of a ton of new stuff, it hasn't got that. So it's the idea of, can you meaningfully shake this up? They just kind of don't have any new mechanics or anything like that. It's just, here's the same handful of bosses shuffled around. And M Plus at this sort of same way is kind of a little bit like that at the minute. And that's like the Blizzard way today. It's, here, we'll make one big new expansion for, for retail, for Dragonflight, I guess I should say, instead of Shadowlands. And then we'll recycle content because that's efficient. So, I mean, there you go. Yeah, the Frozen Core, Molten Core, but it's all ice instead of magma. You Omega lol Graveyarder, but that is literally the kind of thing I think I'm thinking about. That's stuff that would work. And I don't mean, it's Molten Core, but it's frozen over and you've got all the mobs are like blue instead of red. It's like, can you just go, here's Molten Core, copy, paste, cover it over, with ice, add some new stuff, get someone who's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, just get, not a writer, if you want to hire a professional writer, just pick someone off the street and go write a story for the Frozen Core and see what happens, and just do that like crazy. So, but
I mean, doing something in secret, Matt, while you've been talking.
Yeah.
Been on the old school RuneScape website.
Oh no.
Going through their polls. So I have a few things for like releases, but just generally stuff that I think might let us examine how another company has has successfully. There you go. Old school RuneScape review. Sex. Review. How they've successfully actually kept the fucking thing alive. So, to be extremely clear, I don't have a clue about anything I'm about to talk about. It could all be shit, but it also could be great. And at least with old school RuneScape, we have an example of a game where they took how it was in 2007 and then, along with the community, continued development of the game. So they still get new shit. Apparently, one of these new things is called the Giants Foundry. Whatever it might be. Sleeping Giants Quest. Giants, we know them, enormous humanoids hanging around, minding their own business, but how much do we really know? Okay, so it's a new quest, right? Go to Al-Kharid there, and I suppose it's a big quest. It has this place, a non-instance, non-combat safe area accessible to members, where you can work on Kovacs commissions, picking out the perfect sword design, choosing an appropriate level metal to work with, and carefully smithing the blade with a variety of tools. Each commission comes with 2 customer requests. Maybe they want a sword that is narrow and spiked, so you'll have to go to the mold library. And so it seems like they've made a little bit of like some sort of mini game here, right? And accepting all the usuals, right, in this game: your bronze, iron, steel, mithril, adamant, or of course, rune bars. We all remember the days trying to buy a rune simmy and everything, and man, RuneScape. Anyway, so this is just some little system, I suppose, they've made called the Giants Foundry. To be honest with you, I don't particularly know what you get from this, Apparently, though, you do get some XP, right? Some smithing XP, which of course is decently relevant to how like that game works. In terms of rewards, I guess here's some. Okay, so here I suppose we have a little crafting system, right? It seems to have a quest attached to it, and just I suppose it's its own little thing. Again, that's OSRS. That's exactly what the people want for this game.
That would take Blizzard 6 weeks to make that quest.
Right. Apparently, there's a weapon design competition as well. And then they have just a list of some other changes they've made to the game, as well as some merchandise.
Very nice.
And also, there's a board game. So that's like just a little example of, I suppose, they added a little system in a quest. Here, another post, mobile clients launched, changing their mobile client. Apparently, that's been very successful. Here's like how they do feedback, your feedback, our response, just a big table. One of the things with OSRS is they've tried to be very, discussing things with the community. I won't go into details because I don't fucking know what they're talking about. What's this here? Project status update for OSRS, I suppose. Group Iron Man. Unranked Group Iron Man. I mean, that sounds like the sort of thing that the people who maybe enjoy Season of Mastery would be very into. Here they are talking about new client updates. Okay, upcoming content. The Tombs of Amiskut. What's that? Well, apparently, whatever it is, we're foiling some evil plans. This is their third raiding dungeon that's coming out in August. So I suppose they've made a raid dungeon with the four bosses. I mean, I don't really know what a raid looks like in the context of old school RuneScape. But again, it's OSRS. Like, this is, they're just trying to make the shit that people want. Here we go, talking about the Giant's Foundry. Which is a new smithing method. I suppose that's what it is then. Dead Man Rerun. They have an event. They're rerunning it. Some quest speedrunning stuff. A content recommender to sort of get people to do quests. Apparently they did a game jam. Maybe trying to work out things. I mean, this is pretty sweet, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, fundamentally, there's so much you could talk about in terms of, okay, what's the strategy for content, right? What's the flavor of content? Are we going to go vertical progression? Or are we going to go horizontal progression? And I think that a lot of what it comes down to is just there's movement, there's activity, there's life. I think that's kind of the thing where, like, private servers get that fairly well in World of Warcraft because they are kind of adapting. They're doing things, they're trying new things out. Obviously, Season of Mastery was kind of that, but again, it kind of came a little bit too. I saw a lot of people were saying in chat there, it's just too soon after Classic.
It was like straight in.
Yeah.
And like, here's another one, Beneath Cursed Sands. Like I talked about, let's just do a thing with pirates because it's Classic. People like the pirates. Well, I guess they've just done, Beneath Cursed Sands. Cool. There you go. Have a quest line, everyone. Here's where you start it. And again, that's some movement. See, what do you get from this? 2 quest points, access to the Tombs of Amiskut, whatever is going to be in there, the ability to upgrade something I don't understand, a circlet of water, very cool, 20,000 agility XP for your character. All right. Circlet of water is an untradeable item that acts like a water skin when worn. First obtained, it is uncharged and requires water runes to activate. 5 runes required per charge. Okay, so it fills up with water. I forget what water is even used for. Pharaoh's Scepter. What does this do? Does it teleport you places? But maybe, I don't know, this is an example of just like a little item that's like a little system. Apparently it involves teleports. All right, cool. So I'm just trying to go through here. A board game, neat. PvP arena blog. Easter bug fixes. Guardians of the Rift. Whatever that might be. Sure, it sounds cool. There he is, the Guardian. Sort of Cthulhu-looking face on him. In an all-new quest, you'll assist wizard with her research, visit an ancient temple, uncover a mystery that goes back to the dawn of magic. Cool. A quest. And like quests in RuneScape are like usually, they're not like a 10-minute deal. They're like way more, long and sort of intricate. And there's a new runecrafting mini game as well. So I guess that, of course, will be going into the runecrafting system that RuneScape has. So again, this is just like seeing how does another developer actually deal with this stuff. I just thought it was kind of interesting to look through.
Yeah.
Little examples.
Yeah, as Frankenberry puts it, content's king is the point. I think that's kind of the ultimate feel is figure out, obviously this is like whatever for OSRS and was what works for it. but they need to figure out what works for Classic and actually do that. Which, to be fair, it seems like they are kind of hoping to do after Wrath, because they know they are at, like, you know, the train track does end at a point and they have to build it further or figure out what to do after that, because it does end after Wrath. And I was like, what about Cataclysm? I was like, nah, let's not bother with that. Let's not bother with that for whatever personal reason you may have, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, certainly, like in RuneScape, you know, just with it being a more sandboxy game, you add something in and you just get so much playtime from that, because it's all so multiplicative, because it's just happening in this game with a big, vibrant economy. At least, you know, last time I checked, it was like that. So, there you go. Maybe that's some examples for Blizzard. I think it's just how do they tastefully add excellent, classic flavored content that maybe can introduce new things to the table, so that people still have it feels like classic, but it's actually new content. Because that is how you make it possible for somebody to, you know, not just see an echo of the thing they loved a long time ago, but to actually re-experience that. Because it's like, what you need is something that is truly new, novel, and exciting.
Yeah.
But in the same design ethos as the thing you liked. And if you're still capable of liking the original thing, then the new thing should hopefully do the job. Interesting. Yeah. Classic Plus just needs content. That's that.
Yeah, it's like this has been a problem for so long, and obviously they've tried to season of mastery around it. They've tried to, you know, figure out what to do, and I think there's a certain point in time where you do have to just do the work. I think that's one thing that a lot of game developers are kind of maybe starting to learn in this realm of infinitely generated content and constant reuse of content. Is just, you actually do have to literally make people feel something when they're playing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that will come down to giving them something new. Not necessarily challenging, just giving them something new. Because, I mean, that's the whole thing we're talking about last week, the week before, where it is literally novelty is a thing. It makes your brain go, oh, that's new. I'll pay attention. I might even remember that. Which is why, you know, if you play the exact same game, do the exact same thing in a game every night for like a year, that year will be like just gone in your memory. But if you do something new and interesting, then it'll feel better. I think that's what people kind of want.
And we all feel that, so
yeah.
Not to be all like, and in these trying times.
Yes.
But we do legit all fucking feel that.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, I don't know about, like, your country or whatever, but, like, whenever it was just, all right, lockdown, you're fucking in your apartment for, I don't know, 12 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Those 12 weeks were just a smear. They're gone. No time. Right? So, yeah, I suppose that's it. They just have to take the slightly more expensive option out. But ultimately, that shouldn't be too hard, because developing content that would meet the expectations of classic players should really not be that hard compared to modern, where you have to make a dungeon that looks gorgeous, that is insanely beautiful, that has 500 billion... Every fucking mob pack is a new weird way to challenge you or something. That has to work with all the affixes and all the... They don't need any of that shit when they're making stuff for Classic, right? So surely, in a way, it could almost be a more freed up creative space.
Yeah, just make more stuff. There's a tweet I wanted to highlight, because I saw it. I think it's from a game developer in, I think, Britain. I'm not sure. But they said, I feel like my problem increasingly with we have created an infinite amount of content is that creating an infinite amount of content that doesn't very quickly expose how generative and repetitive it is very, very hard.
Radiant Quest and Skyrim.
Yeah, so
that's why I'm deeply excited for Starfield. It is like 100% the game laser targeted to me. But even in the back end, I'm like, procedural. Oh dear. That's it. There are procedural planets, but apparently it's 1,000 procedural planets so that they could still take a manual human look and tweak of all of them. Unlike No Man's Sky, where it's just pure crazy randomness. So, well, we'll see.